Let's go to Miami, Coral Gables, the spring intel from Gary Furman and the folks over at Kane Sport, crushing all the coverage over there. Last year, defense was very bad. Swiss cheese kind of defense from the folks over there in Coral Gables. They have since overhauled that staff. It's early, so we'll see what happens as we get further into this thing and when they actually start playing games. But the vibe is, with the new defensive coordinator and the multiple new defensive coaches over there, Corey Heatherman coming over from Minnesota to run the defense, they feel like overall they have better communication, always a good thing, and better depth on defense. Now that depth has to be sustained, that communication has to carry over, but that's not a bad jumping off point during spring. Those are probably the two things that you would hope you're hearing at this point ahead of the season, a few practices in. On the defensive line, they feel especially good. They're really excited about Armando Blunt and what he's going to be for them come the fall. There's a lot of known commodities up front, but to have some of those young guys starting to come into their own. Listen, a Mario Cristobal football team, we said it since he took the job. Yes, he's going to go get top talent, but you can't change where you're from as a head coach, not geographically. And Mario Cristobal is from Miami. You can't change that either. But he's from the line of scrimmage, from the offensive line. You see what the offensive line is at Miami right now, but the defensive line, I would have to imagine, is just as important to him. So to see all that talent now starting to come into their own since he's gotten there, that some of the guys they got early on that are starting to play to the level of potential you would hope they would eventually get to, vibes are good. Vibes are very, very good on the defensive side, which is massively important because last year we said they were bad. The difference with them being bad last year and the potential of them having a repeat of last season defensively, there's no Cam Ward safety net for you. Like, you hope the offense is still good, but there is no number one rolling in with the Superman cape able to just take over and will you to a victory. Now, Carson Beck is someone we'll talk about here a little bit later in the segment, but the bottom line is it's not fair to expect the Miami offense to have the same exact output as they did a season ago. All right? I don't think we're stretching the truth in how we say that. Now, offensively, I just mentioned the offensive line. They feel great about that. They feel great about the running back room. They think they're 2, maybe 3 deep in that room. And it's funny because you think about Shannon Dawson, and we've said this multiple times, he has the air raid background. So, of course, they want to push the ball downfield. They were top 5 last year in the country when it came to yards per pass, score a lot of points. But even with that being said, they still want to punch you in the face on the ground. They still have a lot of power run concepts up front that they are going to, I think, probably lean on a little bit more than they did a season ago. I said it previously as well. Like, I think with Cam Ward and how good he was off script last year, you maybe didn't get a totally accurate flavor as to the structure of Shannon Dawson's offense. It's going to be a lot more structured in 2025. Like, the comparison I've made before is in 2024, it was the Cam Ward jazz. You kind of moving and grooving to the different rhythm of what's required in that certain moment. Maybe he's break and contain, eyes downfield, throw back across his body, kind of just rolling with the punches. In 2025 with Carson Beck in this run game, I think it'll be a lot more of a symphony. Everyone playing their parts, coming in at the right time, and it sounds like, with that being the case, they have the pieces in the run game, line of scrimmage play, running back room, to be able to hold up there into the bargain in the string section of that symphony. Now, the other part of the symphony, as we mentioned with Shannon Dawson, they're going to want to push the ball downfield. You lose your top 3 guys in Xavier Restrepo, Jacoby George. Isaiah Horton has transferred to Alabama. They're excited about him over there. So who steps up for them in the receiver room? What I'm being told is they're probably going to go to the portal to just get one more proven guy should he become available. But they think JoJo Trader, going to be a sophomore for them this year, is taking the proper steps to be a dude for them and step up in a big way. And then Malachi Toney is a true freshman, early enrollee. He's going to play. To what degree, we'll see, but they fully believe he is going to play. They're very excited about him to this point in time. Always good when you hear good things about early enrollees this early into practice. Like, if you're a true freshman and you just got to campus, it might take a second to figure out where your classes are and your way around Coral Gables, much less figure out a college offense and how to play college football at the highest level. To hear that already he's a name they're excited about, don't look past that. Do not look past that. I'll say this, too, about Malachi Toney. He is, from what I can gather, wired exactly how I want my young wide receiver to be wired. My first introduction to Malachi Toney was watching him during, I believe it was ESPNU or ESPN during some of those earlier broadcasts when high school football gets rolling, and ESPN does a great job spotlighting those games. Malachi Toney catches a touchdown, during his first half of the game maybe, and they do a sideline interview with my guy. I asked him about the play, and he tells the reporter on national television, I told the quarterback, check fade. This dude's not messing with me. Touchdown. I think Malachi Tony was an underclassman at that point too. So the confidence, the swagger, all those things, can't have too much of that at the wide receiver position, especially at a place like Miami. Malachi Tony projecting to be a dude for them in 2025 as a true freshman. Now here's the intel that everyone's curious about, and it's the intel without much intel to it, which is sort of a lame way to put it, but Carson Beck is going to start for you in 2025. We all understand that. You're paying him a lot of money. You brought him over to Georgia, or from Georgia instead of the NFL draft. He's going to be the guy. Getting a lot of mental reps, which I think the staff feels really confident in his progress and his ability to take those mental reps and translate that into fall camp and not miss too much of a beat. Your belief around Carson Beck in spring football, to me, is kind of a similar probably stance that some of y'all take on tipping when you're at a restaurant. Some of y'all think it's the most important thing in the world. Some of y'all think that it doesn't matter at all and it's a ridiculous thought to begin with. The bottom line here is that's what's happening with Carson Beck. So whether you believe in that for him or whether you think that it's not going to matter at all, he's getting mental reps. And the thought is they're going to try to involve him as much as possible during the practice. So it's not going to be a thing where Carson Beck's just on the headset every practice and watching 11 on 11. They want to actually have him within those drills, within those team settings, not actually throwing the football, but actually taking physical, having physical repetitions, if you will, in addition to the mental side of things. Now, the thing that I'm most intrigued about when we talk about the intel around Carson Beck, it's hard to not compare him getting to Miami to where Cam Ward was a season ago when he transferred in from Washington State, because there's kind of a similar expectation for both. This is a dude who's going to allow us to execute the Shannon Dawson offense, score a lot of points, go win the ACC. Now, Cam Ward held up his end of the bargain last year, but we told you the defense didn't do their thing. So here we are. But one thing we kept hearing about Cam Ward this time last year, in addition to all the physical stuff that he was bringing to the table and the way the ball jumped out of his arm, all those things, it was, this dude is an alpha. This is his locker room. This is his team, all those things. Now, for Carson Beck, it's a little bit harder for him to be able to do that when you're not actually out there fully practicing with your guys. So what I have been told from the folks close to Miami, he's putting in the work. So I'm not worried we're not hearing the exact same thing about Cam Ward, the alpha that he was, and Carson Beck acclimating right now. Oh, stiff arm right there. I'm not worried about that just yet. I'm not worried about it at all, actually, just because of what I told you, but he's putting in the work. If you are into the Bo Callahan psychology of this whole thing, for those of y'all that have seen Draft Day, Carson Beck invited some folks over, or invited, from what I can gather, the majority, if not all the team, I think, over to his house for a Super Bowl watch party. Good move, good QB1 move, building the chemistry. He's putting in the work. So it's going to take some time, as these things do, but all in all, good reports from the folks out there at CaneSport and good vibes so far. A few practices in at Miami. I fully expect them to be right back in the mix for an ACC title in year 4 under Mario Cristobal. And I think Carson Beck will eventually, when they get to fall camp, be in good shape to run the offense.